So the Nick Castellanos era has officially come to an end after 4 years. He had 1 year left on his contract. He wasn't allowed back on the team, and he was eventually released because the Phillies made it very, very obvious, we're going to try to trade you. But if we can't trade you, we're going to release you. Swept away any leverage they had in the situation. I made a video probably like 3 weeks ago at this point, and I put it up on my YouTube channel. You can find it right there. And the question I said is like, why are we releasing him? At this point, if you're looking to move on from him and you're willing to basically eat all of the money, then just keep him. Adolis Garcia is no sure thing. And, Nick Castellanos is still a professional baseball player. He's still a vet. He still knows what he's doing. Okay, I'd rather have kind of, a Nick Castellanos if Adolis Garcia doesn't work out. Their outfield depth is non-existent at this point. Okay, yeah, let's keep him. Then I had Bob Cooney on. And Bob Cooney's interview can be found right there. And he said, no. Pat, you're way off base. It can't happen. It can't. Now, Bob was covering the team for NBC Sports Philadelphia, and he brought up an instance where right after the Rob Manfred story came out, Nick Castellanos was quoted by Jeff Passan in that article about what happened in the clubhouse, and then Bryce Harper was there waiting for the media to be like, yo, we don't do that. And it kind of kept Nick away. He was kind of, I don't want to say ostracized, but according to Bob, it was like he was a man on an island. I made that video before the Matt Gelb piece came out, which really highlighted the issues with Nick Castellanos and the Phillies organization. And mainly his issue with getting pulled in a game in Miami where he's from. He had his, I'm assuming, family there. He gets pulled. He didn't take kindly to it. He brings a beer in the locker room, and he wasn't kicked off the team for that. He was kicked off the team for berating his manager so badly, where his teammates were like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on with this? Like, relax. I think the situation with Nick Castellanos is a good example of just the inability of some people to look inward and say, I was great. I was very good. I'm going to embrace this new role. That's what I'm going to do. And I think with Nick, we always heard about how he worked tirelessly on his defense. Like, he actually was out there grinding away, working on his defense. But at some point, you plateau. And for Nick Castellanos, he plateaued in right field. It simply wasn't good enough. The metrics said so. Wasn't like he wasn't trying. But I think in Nick's mind, he went, okay, I'm trying. I'm a better bat than Max Kepler. Arguable. Well, I think he was a better bat. I don't know if he had a better plate discipline. He certainly didn't have that. But he was a better bat. And he's like, well, I'm trying. And I'm a former All-Star, and I'm getting paid $20 million. Like, I should be out there. Other than this guy is making $10 million on a one-year deal. By the way, still a free agent. So, all this happens. I'm unaware of it. Kind of shoots holes in my theory that, hey, just bring him back. And the Phillies end up releasing him. They don't even allow him in camp. They release him. And the outrage of a lot of Phillies fans and some sports media, I can't muster the energy. Like, I really can't. There are certainly players on the Phillies that I do not like. Aaron Nola being primo number one. Nick Castellanos was just never that for me. Now, I do want to preface this by saying I was always kind of a Castellanos guy. Like, when Castellanos and Schwarber were both free agents, I botched this, but I didn't want Schwarber. I wanted Castellanos. I was under the impression they had to pick one. I was like, give me Castellanos. He's more versatile. Thought he could play the outfield. Thought his bat would translate. And for like 2 years, he was good. He was a fine player. Was he a $20 million player? Probably not. Was he a good player? Yeah. Last 2 years, he wasn't, though. He's flailing at the first pitch, and we all know the issues with Nick. But I can't muster the energy to hate the guy, and I feel like a lot of people are doing that. And a lot of people have focused solely on the fact that, well, this was going on, we weren't aware of it. Oh, what happened in October? Phillies end up losing in October. They end up disappointing again in October. Well, it's got to be Nick Castellanos' fault. And it's not. Like, it's just not. Was Nick Castellanos good last year? Not really. He was, he had like 18, 19 home runs, maybe 20. His on-base percentage it might have been under 300. And eventually he ends up getting benched. And even after that tirade on Rob Thompson that was kept under wraps until the Matt Gelb piece comes out, Rob Thompson still tried to make it work. Like, he still threw him out there. Credit to Rob. But let's make something clear. The Phillies did not lose in October because of Nick Castellanos, either the player or the teammate. The Phillies lost in October because Rob Thompson, while I'll give him credit for how he handled the Nick Castellanos situation, Rob Thompson managed a horrible series. And you can go back and look at all the videos I did of the post-game shows and stuff, and I point out this, that, and the other thing. Like, he botched this whole thing. He botched the playoffs. And it was like Dave Roberts was trying to give him the series, and Rob Thompson was like, I'm going to one-up you with another bad decision. Oh, Tanner Banks has been my guy all season long coming in with runners in scoring position. No, I'm bringing in Matt Strahm home run. So there's many examples in that series that I thought Rob Thompson did a really, really bad job of, and I thought Rob Thompson should have cost him his job. But the players love the guy. And I think that's one of the reasons why Nick Castellanos ends up getting ostracized. But the Phillies, once again, did not lose in October because of one player being ostracized, one guy being a horse of a different color, and that just shook the core. One of the reasons I said you need to bring back Kyle Schwarber was because of not only his impact on the field, but his impact in the locker room. And I think that was probably felt during the Nick Castellanos situation. I feel like most teams that dealt with that, they might have had a situation where that would have created an internal conflict and it would have cooked the team. And then the second half of the year, they're a disaster and we can't figure out why, and it's, very Philadelphia Eagles-esque. That didn't happen. The Phillies ended up still winning like 96 games. They were first place. They were one of the best teams in the league. They just ran into the eventual World Series champion. Fine. But the Phillies lost because Rob Thompson did not manage well in the postseason, and the top of their order did not produce. That is it. That is the end of the story. Blaming Nick Castellanos at that point, who was a platoon player, who was a pinch hitter at times, is absurd. Like, it's just absurd. I don't hate the guy. I don't love the guy. I'm indifferent. Like, when he comes back with San Diego, I'm not going to be booing him. It's like, all right, this is a former Philly. Because I don't look at him as like a guy that cooked the team. Should he have produced more? Absolutely. But he still had some really, really, really big hits for this team. And I like to focus on at least a little bit of the good and not necessarily the bad. That's a little hypocritical of me to say because I could do the same thing with Aaron Nola, but I just, no. I think, and that's the problem. All my hate is just focused on Aaron Nola. So I can't really focus it on Nick Castellanos. But the outcry of some Philly sports media because they just didn't jive with him in the first place, I can't fake it. He's going to come back and I'm just going to go, okay, whatever. And I know he's going to get booed. But he thanked the fans for the hospitality, thanked the fans for how they treated Liam. Like, obviously, everybody loves seeing Liam back there going nuts for his dad, hitting home runs and stuff. It was cool. But it, unfortunately, the last 2 years did not really work out. And you know what? At times, that's baseball. And it happens. Do I think the Phillies are a better team without Nick Castellanos? Probably a little bit after reading this article. Do I think the Phillies are a better team now than they were last year? Still no. I still don't know what they have in right field. Nobody knows what they have in center, although I'm high on Justin Crawford. Their pitching rotation got worse. Oh, and by the way, pitchers left and right are signing with teams, and the Phillies aren't one of them. The Phillies aren't signing anybody. Yeah, I would have loved for them to bring in John Means. He's been injured a bunch, but in terms of getting like another guy in there, but he's a lefty. I think that's one of the reasons why they might not have. But like, they're just kind of sitting on their hands. The Phillies have bigger issues right now than what happened with Nick Castellanos 8 months ago. That's really it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. Please consider subscribing to the channel. As far as comments go, I'm probably only going to answer channel members, so support the channel by becoming a channel member. It helps out a ton. And then I'm going to go. I got to go pick up my dog. All right, go Phillies.
I made a video about a week ago. Might have been this week. I don't know. Time's a flat circle. Where I asked, is this the offseason from hell for the Philadelphia Eagles? Are we about to embark on the offseason from hell? I'm talking like when you get on 76 and it's already backed up and you're like, I got 7 miles till the Conshohocken exit. Like, I can't go anywhere. This sucks. Are we about to be that with the Birds? Well, it seems like Dave Dombrowski just fucked around and found out as he wraps up his offseason from hell. Let's let's just take a look at what has transpired with Davey Dombo, okay? First of all, the team's worse. I have made this claim. I've also said that the team is still good. They won 96 games last year. I think people forget that. They end up losing to the eventual World Series champion. There's nothing wrong with that. Still hate the best of 5, but I don't know if they win the series if there was a best of 7. But the team is worse. They have major injury issues with their ace. Christopher Sanchez is really the only pitcher that we know anything about. You don't know what you're getting from Aaron Nola. You don't know what you're getting from Jesus Luzardo because he was an up-and-down pitcher last year. You have no idea what you're getting from Andrew Painter. Taijuan Walker, he's had, 2 good years. In good, I mean, like, he's been okay. And 1 really, really dreadful year. You don't know anything about this rotation. And one of your more stable pitchers, you let walk to Boston. Because you picked, a couple years ago, you picked Aaron Nola over Ranger Suarez. So, all right, your pitching rotation is worse. Your right field situation was a shit show. An absolute shit show this offseason. You completely played your hand by telling everybody that you were trying to deal Nick Castellanos and you were either going to deal him or relieve him, which took away any leverage you had. Now, to be fair, there's a pretty good chance that they tried to trade him last offseason, so teams already knew that. So Dave Dombrowski saying this aloud wasn't exactly, earth-shattering news to Major League Baseball GMs, but it confirmed the fact that there was no chance that Nick Castellanos was going to end up returning to the Phillies. So it's like, yeah, okay, we'll just wait it out. Fine. Okay. You replace him with a lottery ticket in Adolis Garcia, who I hope to God I am cold takes exposing this video in 4 to 5 months. I hope that he has returned to form of a 35 home run player. I've already seen the picture that's circulating Twitter where we convince ourselves that because a guy is yoked up that he must be ready to hit 50 bombs. Not buying it. But still, you probably, you improved a little bit, I guess, marginally in right field. I mean, you don't have a platoon of Castellanos and Max Kepler. I guess that's good, but you don't know what you're getting from there. Okay, you brought back Kyle Schwarber. I think everybody that followed the sport was like, that's a lock. I never took the Pirates offer as serious. I never took the Reds offer as serious. There was the floated out there of like Steve Cohen being interested in the Met. I never took any of that serious. Then you probably pissed off your third baseman by going after Bo Bichette in a very, very open bid to get him, only to see him go to the rival Mets. I have no problem with that, actually. I don't think the optics are good because Alec Boehm's a guy that you drafted here, and it was pretty obvious of like, yeah, we were gonna trade you because we tried to get another player, but we couldn't get that player. So welcome back, buddy. Hey, how are you? That's awkward. And I made a video, and I'll put it up here when the Bo Bichette news broke that he was signing the Mets, that I can't fathom a world where he's a $30 million better player than Alec Boehm. I think the Phillies kind of lucked out on that. I don't blame Bo Bichette for taking the money in that situation. Like, the Phillies gave him a decent offer, I think a market offer, and the Mets were like, we'll just throw ridiculous cash out there. But still, you probably pissed off your third baseman by doing that. You end up trading one of your middle relievers, who was your stable, steady Eddie middle reliever in Matt Strahm, again, for a question mark. Because what you're doing is you're bringing in a player who's a little bit older, that you know nothing about, that had decent numbers in the minors, but still, you know what? And if he ends up becoming a cheap option and a stable presence in the bullpen, then you won that trade. If he ends up becoming, Tanner Banks, then you won that trade. But you don't know. So you usher out Matt Strahm to replace him with a guy that you don't know if he's Matt Strahm. Last year he was for the Cubs. Last year he was a very stable player. So you even out the numbers right there, and you're basically trading Matt Strahm and his contract for an equal contract for another reliever that you hope translates to CBP. The good news is CBP and Wrigley are two confines that are hitter-friendly ballparks. So, like, hopefully it works out, but you don't know. Like, I knew coming into this season Matt Strahm would have success with the Phillies. Why? He's had success with the Phillies his entire Phillies run, right? Barring injury, Matt Strahm was going to be one of your relievers that you were going to use in high leverage situations, and I had faith in the guy. But you usher him out because he dared question some things regarding the organization. Okay, maybe you're trying to change the culture. I never really thought the culture was bad, but then again, I'm not in the locker room. Okay, to be fair. But you can't tell me that the bullpen got better. You can argue that a year of John Duran, sure, Jose Alvarado coming back and he's not doing hydroxycut, sure, okay, but like the bullpen getting better, I can't buy it. Your center field spot probably got a little bit worse in the short term. Long term, I love it. You know, I'm a big Justin Crawford fan. I did a video where I wouldn't have parted with him, or I did an article for PHLY where he was an untouchable for me. I wasn't going to part with him. But there's probably going to be growing pains there. I love the fact that they didn't bring back Harrison Bader for the sake of bringing back Harrison Bader. Hopefully they literally just give the reins to Justin Crawford, and it looks like they're going to do that. But for the short term, it's probably going to be a little bit worse. You're coming back in with Brandon Marsh at left field. Oh, okay. You know? Oh, and then there's this. You royally pissed off your franchise player, your first baseman, Bryce Harper, who had this to say when he was asked about Dave Dombrowski's comments that he's no longer an elite player. This is what Bryce Harper had to say.
I mean, I don't get motivated by that kind of stuff. You know, for me, it was kind of wild, the whole situation of that happening. I think the big thing for me was, you know, when we first met with this organization, it was, hey, you know, we're always going to keep things in-house, and we expect you to do the same thing. And so, you know, when that didn't happen, kind of took me for a run a little bit. So, I don't know. You know, it's part of it, I guess. You know, it's kind of a wild situation. You know, that even happening. Obviously, I didn't have the year that I wanted. Obviously, I didn't have the postseason I wanted. My numbers weren't where they needed to be. I know that, and you know, I don't need to be motivated to be great, you know, in my career or anything else. So that's just not a motivating factor for me. You know, for Dave to come out and say those things, it's kind of wild to me still.
That right there, that puts the cherry on the cake. That is great job, Dave. Now those comments, I agree with Bryce. Those comments were wild when Dave Dombrowski made them, and I don't necessarily know if he was trying to motivate Bryce. If he was, that's not the way to do it. You know, Bryce Harper has been a player that has produced for the Phillies his entire run. He's won an MVP. He's headed to Cooperstown eventually when it wraps up. He'll probably be wearing a Phillies P. He's been the ultimate team guy. And what annoys me about Dave Dombrowski's comments when he made it was like, well, it's obvious to see what's gone wrong with Bryce in Philly. And by gone wrong, I mean, you know, the trajectory of the team completely turned around when he showed up. You know, it took about a year or two, and, you know, the bullpen needed to be remodeled. But he was the catalyst and leads you to a World Series. And then, you know, the injuries start popping up. Like every year, the guy's injured for a little bit of time, but I don't look at Bryce Harper as a guy that's not an elite player. This is the ultimate team guy I look at with Bryce. A guy that leads you to a World Series. Quite literally, like, hit his way into the World Series with that massive home run. Lives for the moment. Did he come up short last year? Absolutely. Did he come up short the year before? I get it. But you can't ignore what he's done. He ends up having Tommy John surgery, completely switches positions. Like, right, oh, you need a first baseman? I'll play first base. Yeah, no problem. I'll play first. Came back insanely fast from an injury and performed well. Yeah, I look at, oh, and by the way, has routinely told the organization, hey, if you've got an interest in a first baseman, like when Pete Alonso last year was a free agent, and then he ended up going back to the Mets, if you have an interest in that guy, I'll move back to right. Like, let's make this work. So he's not a Rafael Devers where it's like, oh, you know, I'm only a third baseman. I'm not playing any other position. No, he will move around to make the team better. Remember, when he signed that $330 million contract, everybody focused on the $330. Nobody focused on the fact that it was over 13 years or something, and the AAV was $25 million, and he did that knowing full well, in about a year or two, I'm going to be underpaid, but this will be able to keep the team competitive, which it has. So you pissed off that guy, who it's not hard to figure out when you watch that video. He's annoyed. Like, he's pissed off. I don't know if the game has just gotten away from Papa Dombrowski. I know my grandfather probably, I think he has dementia. So, at times the filter goes and you just say shit. But Dave, lack of respect. Shut the fuck up, dude. Shut the fuck up. Stop talking. Stop doing these Zoom calls. Stop going bargain bin hunting. Oh, and by the way, they still need another pitcher. And pitchers and catchers have reported. That right there blows my mind. I talked about the rotation and how it's nothing but question marks. Sans Christopher Sanchez. They really need another pitcher in there. They really, really need another starter. I don't want to do bullpen games. They're going to hand the fifth starter spot to Andrew Painter. He didn't deserve it. He didn't pitch well last year in AAA. But they don't have another option. Why? Because Davey Dombo is doing God knows what. You're willing to give Bo Bichette $28 million and you can't sign, somebody out there. I mean, because there's a bunch of them out there. There's a bunch of major league starters out there. You can't sign any of them for a $5 million contract, telling them we're going to give you a chance to compete for the rotation. If not, you've done it before. You kind of did it with Matt Strahm. You did it with Joe Ross last year. What are we doing? No, but he's sitting on his hands. He loves addressing the media. Loves getting out there. The fucking guy isn't even the GM. He's the president of baseball ops. The GM is Preston Mattingly. It's crazy to me. This dude has had a offseason for the books, and not in a good way. Did he improve the team? Not at all. Is the team still good? Yeah, it's still good. Okay, it is. It's still good. But bringing back two guys in JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber and being we added a 50 home run guy, blah, blah. Stop, dude. Because those were givens. JT didn't want to leave. Everybody knew that. Bringing back Kyle Schwarber, I felt like that was a lock. Because, by the way, you bungled that one a year ago. Because in contract negotiations, the agent wanted whatever, and you were like, no, we're going to nickel and dime you. Go out there and prove it. Oh, and he had an MVP type year. So really, this has been a full year of Dave Dombrowski botching situations. Dave Dombrowski came out of his cage. All right, he came out of his cage. He was doing just fine, and he had a banger of a first offseason. Did great. And ever since then, it's been his low-risk moves that he makes haven't really worked out. The Max Keplers of the world. Brought up Joe Ross. There's a good one that you had to release. Jordan Romano. Good one. Cool. Would have had to let Jeff Hoffman go because Jeff Hoffman demanded his release on his minor league deal if it wasn't for the guy that you shit-talked in the offseason, Bryce Harper, coming to the organization and going, this is ridiculous. I faced this guy in an inter-squad game coming back from Tommy John surgery. Why isn't he with the team? Bryce Harper's a better GM than you. So, yeah. Still have high hopes for the team. I still think they're going to be a good baseball team. To give him a little bit of credit, the team is drafted much, much better under his regime, although I think it's more Preston Mattingly and not him. But it's been a rough offseason. But I still think that the team is going to be good. It's just a ton of question marks going in. And, yeah. Oh, and then the World Series champs just added Kyle Tucker, and their one weakness was their bullpen, and they added one of the best closers in the game. Fuck my life. All right. Let me know what you guys think of Dave Dombrowski's comments. Were they warranted, or are you on Team Bryce? As far as comments go, I'm only going to answer people that are channel members. So if you want to become a channel member, please do that. That would help out a ton, and it would just support the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. Subscribing is cool. Hit subscribe. That'd be awesome. I'm going to go. Go Phillies. Well, Phillies fans, if you were one of the many who was disappointed by this offseason with Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies, you finally get your big signing as the club announced on Tuesday that they have signed 11-year-old shortstop David Bosabe to a $1.8 million contract. He will join their Venezuelan academy. Yeah, you heard that right. 11 years old. $1.8 million. More than me, you, and most people that are watching this will make in their lifetime combined. And on the surface, that sounds crazy. It sounds nuts. But when you really dive into it, it's not that crazy. And let me explain why. Now, on the crazy part, it's because of the fact that you see 11 years old and 1.8 million and you think, oh my God, that is nuts. I mean, this kid can't even do multiplication. Why are we giving that much money? And also, it's worth mentioning, he is the first 11-year-old to do this. Like, this is the first of its kind. He is the youngest player to ever come to a pre-arrangement with a Major League Baseball club, and it is with the Phillies. But when you really branch out, this is kind of normal in a lot of ways in the sports world. I don't think a lot of fans in the U.S. correlate baseball with soccer, but when you look at how they develop prospects, it's very, very similar. You know, a lot of these international league clubs, whether it be Premier League, whether it be La Liga, whether it be Bundesliga, like they all have academies, and they all sign young players, very young players, to play at the academy, where the hope is that under the tutelage of their coaching, that they will continue to prosper, develop, and then when they become, 16, 17, 18, they can join the main club. And that's basically what Major League Baseball does. The Phillies are no different. They have academies all over South America. And one of the academies they have is the Venezuelan Academy, where a lot of Major League clubs pulled out of Venezuela because of the political climate. The Phillies were one of the teams that did not do that. They stuck with Venezuela, but they also have academies in Puerto Rico, in Dominican Republic. They opened up one with the Twins not too long ago. It's like a joint venture. Back in like 2017, 2018, they opened up a brand new academy. But the hope is that, you will be able to attract the top level players to your academy, where then you would sign them when they become of age, which the age is 16. But I think when you look at 11 years old and you look at that kind of money, it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Forgetting the fact that Lionel Messi signed with Newell's Old Boys at the age of 7. And when he signed with, oh God, who did he sign with? Barcelona, I think he was 13, when he made that jump to Barcelona. It's not nuts because it's been done. It's nuts for Major League Baseball because it's never been done to this effect. But let's really break down the deal of $1.8 million. Because we're used and we're accustomed to the Phillies and every Major League Baseball team being players in the international market. Every year the international market opens up and these clubs will sign 16-year-old players to ridiculous contracts. I don't think what many people realize is those contracts that are in place, this isn't free agency. It's not a situation of like Bryce Harper going and meeting with the Yankees and meeting with the Dodgers and meeting with the White Sox and meeting with the Phillies. It is pre-arrangements. It is this player has been playing at this academy for quite some time. He is the best player at the academy. He is going to make a boatload of money when he turns 16. Oh, he turned 16. Here's $3 million. The Phillies recently did it with a guy, Francisco Renteria, back in January. The international market opened up. They signed Renteria to a $4 million contract. He's the number 3 ranked prospect on the international ranking system for MajorLeagueBaseball.com. Now, this doesn't always work out. And a lot of times it actually doesn't work out. I think we all remember Jalen Ortiz, who signed for $4 million. And he had light tower power, but he couldn't lay off a breaking ball. Then he flamed out at AA. That happens. And a lot of times I feel like it's kind of like with college football where you look at the amount of guys that actually make professional football in the NFL, they're usually 2-star recruits and not necessarily the 5-star recruits. A lot of times when you look at the Major League Baseball club, it's like, oh, so-and-so signed for $50,000. He was like a throwaway. And the name that immediately comes to mind actually is the guy that just walked, Ranger Suarez, was like a throwaway prospect of like, all right, we'll give him a little bit of a contract and see what happens. And you see what happens. I feel like a lot of times that is more likely than the Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s, who signed for, the bonus baby money. But that is typical. The Phillies haven't exactly done well in this area, whether it be with the William Bergolas of the world, who they actually traded for Tanner Banks, who's had a nice season, at least with the White Sox, but he was like a big bonus baby. Archimedes Gamboa was another one. He flamed out. A lot of these guys, because they're 16, a lot of them simply won't develop the way that the organization thinks, but they're still going to spend the money. They're still going to continue to try to sign these guys. And what the Phillies are doing with this kid, David Bossaby, I think I'm saying his name right, is they're simply getting him in camp, getting him in their academy, getting him under their tutelage, and hoping that he will develop, much like Barcelona did with Lionel Messi when they signed him on a napkin. That's it. The $1.8 million sounds really sexy on paper, but there's no check signed. None. This is a pre-arrangement. This is an agreement of you come play for us, you get your schooling through us, you get 3 meals a day through us, and we'll see what happens down the line, but we like your talent so far, and we think it'll translate, and blah, 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 blah. The Phillies did not ink a kid to a $1.8 million contract. The Phillies agreed to eventually ink a kid to a $1.8 million contract. And you know what? If this kid develops and he's a monster in 5 years, it will be more than $1.8 million. But what this kid essentially did was say, okay, I'm going to agree to this. I'm going to get good coaching, and hopefully those big dollar signs will translate, that I will continue to develop, and I will set my family up for life. And that's the goal of a lot of these kids, is just to get out. There's a really, really good movie. It's fiction, but it's called Sugar. It's probably from like 15 years ago, but it follows a kid in like the Dominican Republic who signs, and he goes through, single A and double A. But that's the goal of these kids. But this particular situation, he's probably getting a little bit of a stipend to send home to mom and dad. He's probably getting a little bit of money, but it's not the $1.8 million that is being reported. That is a prearrangement. So I think on the surface, a lot of fans are like, you've got to be kidding me. We don't even know if we have a fifth starter, and you're signing 11-year-olds, but I assure you, this is going to continue. Like, this will be the wave of the future. This will be the norm in a couple of years. It wasn't so long ago where signing a 16-year-old to a $4 million contract was thought of as unheard of, and now it's just the norm. So the Phillies inking this kid, I have no problem with it, because for the Phillies, $1.8 million in 5 years is a drop in the bucket. But they essentially, they saw talent, they identified it, they agreed to have this kid come in, and hopefully in 5 years he ends up inking because he did produce. The Phillies have done a similar situation with Acuna's brother. You've got Ronald Acuna, Luis Angel Acuna, and then the other Acuna, who's I think 14 right now, and he's in the Phillies Academy, and it's a very similar situation. If he continues to develop, he will end up getting signed by the Phillies at the age of 16 to a pretty nice, sizable contract. And then hopefully, you start off in like the Dominican Summer League or something like that, the Venezuelan Summer League, and then you come over to the States and you hopefully end up, developing and producing. But I think when you initially see the 11-year-old, you're like, Jesus, okay, so we don't see him for a decade. Probably more than that, if we ever see him at all. This is the part of the video where I please ask you guys to subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs up button if you thought it sucked. What do you guys think out there about the Phillies signing an 11-year-old? Did I make sense at all to you? Please let me know in the comment section. As far as the comments go, I'm probably going to answer only channel members, so please support the channel by becoming a channel member. It would help. But subscribing is also helpful, and you watching is also helpful. I'll leave now. I'm rambling. The Eagles got some unquestioned good news on Thursday, as it was reported by Jeff McClain that Lane Johnson will be coming back. Thank God. It was also reported by, I believe, John Clark that Landon Dickerson will also be coming back again. Thank God. And while I am thrilled about this, and I'm always worried about Lane Johnson and hanging it up, I've been worried about Lane Johnson hanging it up for a good 4 or 5 years now, this does shine a light on the ticking time bomb that the Eagles are facing. And it really can't come at a worse time, in my opinion. When you look at what the Eagles are facing in the not-so-distant future, and I'm talking like maybe a year, it's bleak when it comes to the O-line. Because you've got Jordan Mailata, who, oh, by the way, and this went under the radar, is already talking about life after football. Never a good sign. But you've got Jordan Mailata and you've got Cam Jurgens, and that is it. And Cam Jurgens is no sure thing. We all watched him this past season, right? Like, you saw it, I saw it, everybody saw it. Somehow the guy was a Pro Bowler, and even beat reporters were like, I don't know how this guy's a Pro Bowler. And they're the ones that have to face him in the locker room. I think Cam was surprised he was a Pro Bowler. So when you look at the future of the Eagles' offensive line, it's bleak in the sense of you're going to need a new right tackle pretty damn soon. You're going to need a new left guard pretty damn soon. You don't have any internal options. You don't. They drafted some guys in the later rounds. Most of them are projects, and maybe they will develop. But one of the reasons why I say this can't come at a worse time is because Jeff Stoutland is gone. He left. He's out the door. We have no idea what we're getting from this new guy. None. This new guy who's so new I can't even tell you his name, and that's bad on me. Hit thumbs down for that. But this is a major issue Because for vets like Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, who have only known one coach, and by the way, that includes Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen, like they've only known Jeff Stoutland. To have a new guy come in, I hope to God it works out, obviously. Like, I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm sure you're an Eagles fan if you're watching this. And there's a chance that this guy is better than Jeff Stoutland. I said that when the move got announced. It's not like people were doing backflips when Jeff Stoutland got hired, when Howard Mudd retired, but the idea that the Eagles let Jeff Stoutland walk, this wasn't a retirement. This was a situation of, no, we let you out the door. That's an issue. And when you're looking at revamping your entire O-line, essentially, in the next 1 to 3 or 4 years, I don't like the idea of doing it without the constant, and the constant was Jeff Stoutland. The Eagles, under Stoutland, to be fair, have failed to really develop the depth that they've had in previous years. Now, I think that was on a highlighted display this past season when everybody was injured. Landon Dickerson came in to the season fresh off of surgery, and he never looked completely 100% right, and I think he'll tell you that. And then after that, it was a downward spiral of injury after injury after injury. Everybody seemed to be banging up at one point, and they never seemed to go into a game with their entire offensive line healthy. I also said this before, and it bears repeating, but the best move that you look at Howie Roseman making in this past offseason might have been bringing back Fred Johnson in a trade. It was a minor move at the time, but it gave them much needed depth that they didn't have. But the only guy that remained healthy was Tyler Steen, and he's horrible. So you're in a situation for the Eagles where you're going into the draft, you're looking for your current probably right guard. If you don't want to go on the free agent market and sign one, Mekhi Becton will be out there. If you want to bring him back, fine. But Mekhi Becton played best when he was under who? Say it with me, everybody. Jeff Stoutland. Again, not to say that the new guy can't be as good as Stoutland, if not better. It's just I know what I'm getting from Stoutland. I know I've seen Mekhi Becton thrive in Stoutland's system. I haven't seen Mekhi Becton in this new guy's system. So maybe the Eagles bring him back in a cheap option. It didn't work out in San Diego. Hey, it didn't work out in New York, but you know where it did work out? Philly. Okay, that solves the right guard situation. Maybe there's another kind of Mekhi Becton that they can get out there. They've tried that in the past. They've gone out there and signed the Chase Warmacks of the world and tried to make that work. A former first-round pick that didn't end up panning out with his old team, and maybe he ends up revitalizing his career in Philly. It did work out for Mekhi Becton. It worked out great for Mekhi Becton. Maybe they do that again, but I think going into next season with Tyler Steen at the right guard position is bad. I saw a stat, a report from Chase Sr. It wasn't a report. It was just a opinion thing on Chase Sr. By Chase Sr. I'm sorry. And Chase, I knew him from working at the Fanatic. He was an intern when I was slumming it as a part-time producer. He's awesome at what he does, but it was an opinion piece on the offensive line situation. And he said, Pro Football Focus at Tyler Steen ranked as blah, 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 blah. It's amazing how many people will go to Pro Football Focus when they need to make their argument. Because everybody and their mother knows Pro Football Focus sucks. Like, Pro Football Focus to me is the war stat in baseball. It's telling me that Margot Robbie isn't as hot as we all know Margot Robbie is. You're like, I have eyes. I can see she's hot. War comes along. Pro Football Focus comes along. No. Actually, she's not as hot as you think. When you really look at the metrics and you break down the makeup to skin ratio and you break down the natural color to the dye job and the sweatpants to dress ratio, she's not that hot. You're like, what are you talking about? That to me is Pro Football Focus. And a really good example of this is them grading Tyler Steen to be anything but dog shit last year. He was ass. Like, he was straight cheeks. They need to replace Tyler Steen. They need a new right guard. They're going to need a new right tackle pretty damn soon. I don't think they address it in this draft, though, because they have so many holes. Way too many holes. They don't have the luxury of going out there and taking a project pick, a guy that will sit. Kind of like what they did with Jalen Hurts, right? Like, they had Carson Wentz, and they had the luxury of letting Jalen Hurts sit for a bit and learn under Wentz, but at least get the system right. They weren't rushing Jalen Hurts into games and anything like that. That was the luxury they had. The Eagles don't have that luxury right now because of the holes that they have. And because of those holes that they have, they don't have the luxury of going out there and, taking a guy that will be a project, taking a guy that can sit and learn. They need an impact guy next year.
They need an edge rusher. They need a right guard. They need another outside cornerback to play opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. Like they need a tight end. They need these things. This isn't a situation where this roster is set. If this was a year ago, I would have been like, yeah, all right, take a right tackle. Like that makes sense. They don't have that. They need to go out and address key positions on their roster because they're in a win now mode. So I am thrilled to wrap this up. I'm thrilled that Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson are back. But I'm terrified about the future. I'm terrified about what this offensive line looks like because my entire life has been really good offensive lines. And I think as Eagles fans, we've taken it for granted because you don't necessarily notice the offensive lines. But when you look at it, like the left tackle position in my lifetime, Trey Thomas went to Jason Peters, went to Jordan Mailata. Like studs. 3 studs right there. Right tackle, okay. You had John Runyon, and then you had Winston Justice for like a hot minute there, and he was actually decent at right tackle. He was horrible at left, but he was decent at right tackle. Ended up getting a contract extension, and then you end up drafting Lane, and he was, he's a future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. And even the guard positions, they've had really good guard play, whether it be plucking a guy like Evan Mathis off the scrap heap and turning him into something. Hank Fraley at center, and then that gives way to Jamal, from Delaware State. Why am I drawing a blank? Hit thumbs down for this. I'm completely drawing a blank on. Oh, God. And it was like JJ. Someone in the comment section tell me because it's driving me nuts. But yeah, he went to Delaware State. But he was like decent. And then, you ended up getting Kelsey. But going into the future, I don't know what this offensive line is going to look like, and I'm worried. I'm worried about the ability of this new guy to identify the talent. Thank God Jeff Stoutland identified Jordan Mailata in the 2018 draft, and he stood on the table and said, we need to take this guy. I can do something with him. Just give me some time. Thank God, because a year later they're drafting Andre Dillard, and we all know how that worked out. So I love the fact that they're going to be back. Wasn't worried so much about Landon Dickerson. Was worried about Lane Johnson. But I think the Eagles have a ticking time bomb on their hands, and they need to address it much sooner rather than later. Now's the part of the video where I ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. What's your concern level with the future of the offensive line? Let me know in the comments section. As far as comments go, I'm probably going to only reply to channel members. So if you want to support the channel, become a channel member. I'd appreciate it. It would help out a lot. But subscribing is cool. Thumbs up, thumbs downs are cool. Comments are cool. I'm going to go now. I got a hockey game. Goodbye.